From John Greenhand started VP5PZ in 1939 at his home in Seaview Avenue, the number of radio stations in Jamaica has increased. Presently, we have more than 30 major radio stations, including RJR, Fire 105, and Ari FM. Yes, the number of radio stations in Jamaica has been increasing. However, the number of persons who tune in has been declining. According to Dr. Marcia Forbes, a Jamaica media consultant and author, radio in Jamaica has been facing challenges for almost 2 decades, from 1997. Right now, you may be wondering, how is this even possible when I see and hear the people around me listening to the radio every day? That is why we are here to remind you of the importance radio serves in Jamaica's history and to encourage you to tune in.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us for a pivotal day in the history of radio, Jamaican radio, and the BCAT Radio, operating out of the University of Technology, Jamaica. I am your host for the evening, Travis Bartley.
And I'm your co-host, Melissa Gentles. From the day of our first broadcast on November 17, 1939, to our first commercial broadcast on July 17, 1950, when Radio Jamaica, RJR, was born. Today, radio continues to play an important role in Jamaica's development.
Absolutely, Melissa. Join us as we show you the pathway for success for an industry in the largest English-speaking country in the Caribbean, a country renowned for raising the standard in so many different ways. Join us as we deliver the theme,
Keeping Radio Alive.
Keeping radio alive. I reflected on my childhood, and I spent much of my childhood listening to the radio, and it for me represented an opportunity to journey into my imagination. I listened to the radio and I could visualize, I could see many of the things that probably, if you asked me at the time, I would tell you it's something completely different from what you were thinking. Because I used the opportunity to interpret the words that were said or being said. And I looked at how I could use my own imagination to create my own world. Another thing that inspired me about radio is the way how they use language. And language inspired me. Language is something that has so many facets to it. Through radio, I was able to appreciate the dexterity of language, and in addition to that, it helped me to improve my vocabulary as well. I loved the fact that I could learn so many more words. Radio dramas as well inspired me as an actor, as an artist. I remember listening to radio dramas and not just listening to the words, but listening to the sounds. Listening to the doors opening and closing, you could actually sense the distance from which each actor spoke, and that was one way of exciting imagination. I came across an article written in London, and it said that radio has the most mood-enhancing effect on listeners. And I thought this was really very true based on my experience. Even more reason why I encourage people to keep radio alive.
Radio alive is something that's very important because the more channels our citizens have to access information and content, the better. Now, for our part at the Broadcasting Commission, we have facilitated the expansion and diversification of the radio landscape. And this we do through reviewing applications for licenses and making recommendations to the minister who then would issue the license. So, for instance, up to 1989 we had 4 stations, RJR Supreme and RJR Fame, and we also had JBC1 and its affiliate JBC2. But due to the recommendations we have made in the 90s, you saw the emergence of other stations, Hot 102, KLAS, Power 106, Love FM, and so forth. So by the end of the 90s, we had 8 commercial stations and 4 non-commercial stations. And by 2003, we had 16 radio stations, and today we have 27. So that's the primary way that we would say that we're keeping radio alive. Additionally, we also facilitate the development of community stations, and these are low-power FM stations that operate within a 10-mile radius for the benefit of the communities in that area. Lastly, we have a media literacy project where we engage students on issues to do with traditional media and new media. And one of the things that we make a point of duty is to encourage the students, encourage the schools to start radio stations using their PA systems. And we have actually provided training to that end for them to understand the basics of production, news presenting, sports, entertainment, reporting, and that kind of thing. And we find that more and more schools are experimenting with that, providing coverage of school events, for instance, and things happening in their communities through PA system-based radio initiatives.
Journey of BCAT Radio. Since its inception, the Bachelor of Arts in Communication Arts and Technology program here at UTech Jamaica has sought to prepare students to work in all aspects of the media landscapes. Past students of the program sought to launch BCAT Radio. In 2013, it could be found on Mixcloud. In 2014, another group created BCAT Radio Lunchtime Lime, airing from 12 to 2 with days like Mayhem Mondays and Talawa Thursdays. On February 3, 2014, BCAT Radio was unleashed on the frequency 96.9 FM. This year, 2016, under the tutelage of Mr. Tomlin Ellis, we have been able to produce our own 1-hour program airing 12 noon from Monday to Friday, each day given its own name, as it is Mondays, Turbo Tuesdays, Winged Wednesdays, The Plug, and Free Flow Fridays. Going forward, we hope to continue these programs so the next cohort can come along and make BCAT Radio bigger and better.
These are the classical records. We have these on classics. We have classics on CDs now, but these are the records that we'll eventually transfer them to CDs also. Okay. And these are the 78s.
No kidding.
This is what we have with us, 78s. And we have some more on the other side.
Yeah.
And now we have the opportunity to listen to the general manager of one of the top 10 radio stations in the country, Ronnie Sutherland of Fire 105.
Well, thank you and good evening to your audience. I'm going to quickly take you through what I consider to be very important steps for the preservation of radio going forward. After 80 years, I can tell you that radio has done extremely well as a very simplified media form. Over its 80 years, there have been several times that people have been prepared to predict its demise. It started in the 1960s when television came out, color television, and people seen that radio was just purely audio. Now comparing with television with video and audio would certainly die, but it didn't. As a matter of fact, subsequently radio has gotten stronger. Now radio is at another crossroad, where there are several different radio services online passing themselves out as radio, and people are just a little worried again that radio is under the same challenge it came up against with radio with television in the 60s. The fact, however, is that there are little to no sign that radio is disappearing. The question, however, is what must be done to fight off the onslaught of this very strong emergent radio services. Radio is essentially two formats. It's either music on one hand or talk, what we call vocal content on the other. And the radio services being delivered online are mimicking both formats. On the talk side, you have a Google and Omni, that are very, very strong. And on the music side, there is Spotify, there is Pandora, which is very, very popular, and of course there's iTunes Radio, all delivering music in a form that people want them and have been getting them on radio. The fact is, however, that radio has had four very strong elements that has sustained it all this time, and none of those online formats have been able to replicate it. And what are those strong elements of radio that has worked so well for it in the past? One, the immediacy of radio. When you get into a radio program, people who will listen, get in there, within minutes of being in there, they know exactly what is going on. A strong radio need, to be able to do that. So going forward, any radio form that is going to succeed must bring that immediacy. None of those online services have been able to do that. Then, of course, there is this companionship feature of radio, where listeners get to feel as if they're really in touch with their, on-air personalities, their friends, and like they know them. None of those online, features have been able to do that. Then there's, of course, the content, very, very strong. All of the online features, formats, they're able to deliver strong content, but guess what? They've not just been able to bring the personalized delivery that radio has been able to do. And finally, there's a sense of community that radio has been able to deliver. You get into radio, you feel as if you know what you're listening to, you know what the other people who are listening to it, and you know them. You just not only know the personalities, but you know the community. None of the other online services so far has been able to replicate that. That's very, very important. But very importantly, as finally, is that going forward, it is great if we're able to identify and to deliver those strengths. But importantly is that you must get to know your audience. So the whole idea of market segmentation, where you know your audience and package your things specifically for them. In the case of those online services outside of making and behaving like radio, they have what we call radio on demand. They give you a huge library, access to a huge library, and that's it. In the case of radio as we know it, it's personalized. You have to tailor your content to your listening audience. And that's basically how you will survive. If you're able to make those distinctions, then you're good to go.
So there you have it. You have seen and heard why radio is important. Radio has been a major communication tool used not only to provide entertainment but also important information to the Jamaican people. There has been a tremendous increase in the number of radio stations operating in Jamaica, from only one major player to 27 here in 2016. Radio is important and we need to keep it alive.
Stand by, guys.
Testing. Yes.
Studio again for another epic week of The Plug.
Thank you, beautiful people, for tuning in to BCAT Radio, live from the University of Technology, Jamaica. Until next time, walk good.
Where the remote? Where the remote?
Hurry and change the channel quick.
I ain't that thing that. But where the pussy come from?
I am your host, Travis Bartley.
And I'm your co-host, Melissa Gentles.
Travis.
Travis
Radio. Wednesday, I'm like a paragraph.
Completely.